Welcome back. Russia on Monday launched a barrage of missiles and drones throughout Ukraine in what is being seen as an escalation to the two-year-old Russia-Ukraine war. Russia launched over 100 missiles and nearly 100 attack drones at Ukraine during the Monday morning rush hour, killing at least 5 people and hitting energy facilities across the country. According to the official sources, the power outages and disruptions have been through the country. Water supplies have been affected in multiple locations, and that includes part in Kyiv, number of areas in Kyiv. The attack, which occurred roughly 2.5 years, which led to the war, a full-scale invasion, has now turned into a full-scale attrition around industrial infrastructure. And when we say power, critical infrastructure, they are not being left untouched. They are not being left untouched. The missile and drone barrage was Russia's most intense in weeks and coincided with Ukraine's recent territorial gains in significant cross-border operation in Russia's southern Kursk. Ukrainians too have launched barrage of drones inside the Russian territory. This Russian offensive is coming in wake of Ukraine attacking multiple cities, multiple areas, multiple critical infrastructure inside Russia. Ukraine's drone was seen smashing into Russia's Saratov, damaged a 38-story apartment there and injured 5 people. The casualty was not high, but the visuals are symbolic. Russia-Ukraine escalation has also resulted in death of journalists, apart from number of innocent people. Now, let me straight away go to Lieutenant General Shaukin Chauhan. Sir, has this war evolved into something different with drones playing a very prominent role? And do you think that the battlefield is getting reshaped with drones actively being used inside the Russian territory?
Good evening, Karthik. Thank you for calling me to your show. Yes, it's been a very interesting Monday. Actually, over the last week, ever since Ukraine started its counter-offensive into Russia, into the Kursk region of Russia, Russia has been at, wondering what to do. And though the Ukrainian counter-offensive was led by just 2 brigades, one brigade in the beginning of about 1,000 men and about 20 odd light tanks, subsequently it expanded by moving one brigade and then the other over the week. But for the first time in a counteroffensive, in a further battle of attrition, Russia decided to take the battle further into Kyiv and Ukraine by hitting Ukraine's industrial complex, by hitting Kyiv, and by hitting a lot of other issues by launching missiles and drones. The battle has always been a battle of long-range missiles and latest technology. So today's attacks, either from the Ukrainian side onto that apartment building in Moscow, or from the Russian side onto industrial targets, are just the continuation of an endless war. Ukraine doesn't seem like giving up at the moment, and Russia is definitely not touched by that shallow offensive done by Ukraine in the Kursk region. So, Karthik, I feel this will continue. The battle will continue. The situation will continue, and it's only when Ukraine and Russia actually sit down on the table and decide that this war has been pointless and there's an exchange of territories, and Ambassador Tribunal said, till then I can't foresee anything else changing at the moment.
So, a year ago, any war inside Russia was supposed to be a red line, but the Ukraine has crossed that red line, and now it's actively attacking the Russian towns near the border. Do you expect escalations from the Russians?
Karthik, see, let's just study the Kursk's intrusion. I can't call it a counteroffensive. It's too shallow, too small. And study what should be Russia's reaction to it. Firstly, they went in about 20 kilometers, moved further because it was a lightly defended area, second line Russian troops, and they've gone, say, 30, 35 kilometers. But the number of troops that are supporting the Ukrainian offensive are just about 3 brigades. And they will run out of steam, what we call the culminating point. So, moment they reach the culminating point, they will either have to withdraw for logistics or they will have to consolidate. That means getting 2 or 3 more divisions in that place. Having studied Ukraine's forces and their ability to go inside and to cause real damage to Russia, Ukraine would have to move at least 2 to 3 more divisions to consolidate the area around Kyiv, around Kursk. And I can't think of the forces coming in from there. So whatever damage they're doing, and they're doing damage to the Russian morale, doing damage to their population, but definitely militarily it's not going to bother, because once they reach the culminating point, that means the last point at which they can go further, they will have to stop, Karthik. Logistically, they'll have to stop. Russia has always fought battles where they traded space for time. And the Kursk region has seen a lot of battles during the Second World War, and the population is quite, though it's young and may not remember the battles, but it's something that Russia is a very vast country, and it's not really going to affect their mainland. Whereas Ukraine faces, a loss of extremely important regions like the Donetsk region, and of course Kyiv subsequently. So if Ukraine moves more forces into Kursk, she will have to withdraw them from the forces that are stopping the Russian advance in the Donetsk region. Donetsk, as you know, is an industrial hub. So these are the issues, Karthik, that you take into account one way or the other.
General, you understand the Russian psyche. My question to you is there a possibility of escalation of different sort of armament used in this war? Like, for example, Russians have deployed a level of armament, a level of missile. Do you think that they can escalate to something bigger? I'll just give you an example. Maybe you can explain it to our viewers. After the Americans couldn't get when they decided that, they'll need to fight another war with Japan, they used nuclear bomb. So I'm not saying that this war is going to go nuclear, but can they move to a different level of attrition inside Ukraine?
Short of the nuclear war, you mean? A non-nuclear option, right? Russians have the hyperbaric bomb. That is the biggest bomb short of a nuclear weapon, the tactical nuke. Say they launch it, but what would be their target and what are they trying to destroy? And why would they want to destroy that? That's the main issue that you have to take into account. As of now, Karthik, they're not really losing this war. They are causing a lot of attrition. They've taken a lot of territory. And the end point would be that, if Ukraine loses the Donetsk region, they lose a lot of territory, a lot of important territory.
But then, there's another issue. When I was speaking to Solomia Bobrovska, I know it's a political question, and she's a member of parliament. She said, public opinion is opposed to any compromise with Putin. When we talk about settlements, when we talk about war, when we talk about intensity, it's the mood of the people which is very, very important. She said the Ukrainian people are opposed to any peace talks with Putin. In that case, it means that the battle which we are witnessing will remain.
Karthik, eventually governance cannot be through the street. Governance is through strategy, through processes, and a knowledge of what you can and what you can't do. So, like I was saying, Karthik, if you are going to who can trade space for time? At the present moment, it's just the Russians who can trade space. So, how many forces can, let's just war game this, how many forces can be put inside Russia in the Kursk region? Another division? Where will they get this second division? Uh, you will need 2 to 3 to 4 divisions more to go beyond Kursk and to go cross your culminating point. If that doesn't happen, then you have to stop. And the moment you stop, a counter strike can hit them and create a problem. But the Russian invasion and the intrusion into the Donetsk region is not being stopped. And that's a much more important industrial area for Ukraine than their intrusion into Kursk. Kursk a feel-good situation. But eventually, wars are fought on real issues. The ability of a nation to fight beyond a certain point. And that as the war progresses, Karthik, is being severely impaired as far as Ukraine is concerned.
The way Stringer reshaped the Afghan warfare, or the Kalashnikov reshaped the so-called terrorism across the world, do you think that the drone warfare is reshaping the war rules globally, what we witness in Russia and Ukraine? I mean, so it's unimaginable that a smaller state would strike inside Russia, use a drone, smash it into a building, reminding everyone of 9/11.
Yes, yes, drones are here to stay. You've got no doubt about that. That drones are here. This technology is here, and all nations are that are working on this kind of system are working on the use of mass drones, of massed firepower. To carry out operations, to carry out offensive operations. Drones not just in the air, drones on the ground, drones undersea. With AI, drones have now sort of made a huge intrusion into our concept of the battlefield. The multi-domain war, as we call it, is here to stay. Whether it is cyber, whether it is space, whether it is drone warfare, whether it is the air, whether it is the sea or the undersea, every kind of domain is being activated. This is as a soldier, when you see how battle is being conducted and you see how different domains are being used in this war, you realize that there is a need for us in the Indian Army to think about all these issues and to see how our enemies could use them against us. And similarly, all the countries also doing the same thing, whether it's the US or whether it is the NATO, they're all looking at what Russia can do and what Russia can activate. And similarly, they are also hitting them with a technological change to see how Russia will defend itself. I think Russia hasn't actually started using their firepower, the larger weapons. Forget the nuclear option, the non-nuclear option, the thermobaric. And if they start the bombardment of Kyiv, the morale of the people in Kyiv and Ukraine can severely be impacted.
Thank you.
As the war continues, Karthik, this is going to be a major issue. And as I said, war cannot be conducted from the street. It is the knowledge of the leader who will finally decide who has had enough.
Absolutely, General Chauhan. Thank you so much for joining me. This is a significant escalation which has taken place, and these are the visuals of the last 48 hours. And these are the visuals which tell us how brutally the war is being fought street by street between Russia and Ukraine. And the larger point we are trying to make is that at one point of time, a show which I did short while ago, when Zelensky is talking about peace, and when even Putin says there has to be some modicum of peace provided we have security assurances, the battle on ground has not subsided. Because as Jaishankar, India's foreign minister, has very categorically and correctly put it, these are two verticals which are not bending so that they come together on a table for any talk.
From Payal Nath, the CEO and director of Kadam